Human beings spent millions of years clawing their way to the top of the food chain, only to invent existential dread, paralyzing shame, and the crushing anxiety of being ignored by a group of strangers. Natural selection is a ruthless optimizer designed to keep organisms alive long enough to breed, yet it somehow decided to equip the most dominant species on Earth with the biological equivalent of self-sabotage. If survival is the goal, feeling a deep, stomach-churning emptiness because someone did not reply to a text message is a catastrophic engineering failure. A gazelle does not lie awake at night wondering if the herd thinks his legs look weird. A tiger does not experience a midlife crisis or feel embarrassed when it misses its prey. Yet, humans possess a massive, expensive suite of complex emotions that frequently render us miserable, dysfunctional, and physically ill. We cry tears of joy, we feel sick with jealousy, and we suffer from heartbreak that is indistinguishable from actual physical trauma. This is not a poetic exaggeration. If you put a person suffering from social rejection into an MRI machine, the active regions of their brain look identical to someone who has just been stabbed in the leg. This bizarre evolutionary design choice presents a massive biological paradox. Evolution does not tolerate waste. Every gram of tissue and every millisecond of neural activity costs precious metabolic energy. Our ancestors lived in a brutal world where a single miscalculation meant death by starvation or predation. Spending energy on feeling sad about the passage of time is a luxury they could not afford. Yet these complex, agonizing mental states persisted and grew. This raises a fundamental, unsettling question that science has spent decades trying to untangle. Why did nature hijack our physical pain pathways to make us suffer over abstract social thoughts? The answer lies hidden in a brutal evolutionary trade-off, a survival adaptation that saved our ancestors but left modern humans permanently vulnerable to their own minds. To understand how we ended up with this emotional baggage, we must look at the brutal economic reality of the Pleistocene epoch. For 99% of human history, surviving as an individual was mathematically impossible. A lone hominid on the African savanna was nothing more than a slow, weak, weaponless snack for a saber-toothed cat. Humans did not survive because they had sharp claws or thick hide. They survived because they banded together in tight, highly coordinated groups. This shift from solitary survival to hypersocial living required a massive hardware upgrade. The brain had to grow. Specifically, the neocortex, the region responsible for social processing, expanded rapidly. This expansion came with a devastating catch. A larger brain requires an enormous amount of energy. The human brain makes up only 2% of our body weight, but consumes 20% of our metabolic resources. To fuel this greedy organ, our ancestors had to hunt and forage more efficiently, which required even tighter cooperation. This created an evolutionary loop. Better cooperation required bigger brains, and bigger brains required better cooperation. But cooperation is incredibly hard to enforce. In a group, there are always individuals who want to cheat the system. These free riders eat the food others gather but refuse to share theirs, or they shirk their guard duties while others sleep. If everyone free rides, the group collapses and everyone dies. Nature needed a way to police these interactions without hiring external security guards. The solution was not a set of logical laws because logic is too slow and easily rationalized away. Instead, evolution built an internal, automated biological police force. It developed complex emotions as a system of immediate, visceral rewards and punishments to force individuals into line. Love, guilt, and pride are not spiritual gifts. They are biological incentives and punishments designed to manipulate our behavior for the survival of the collective. The internal policing system operates through a complex cocktail of neurochemicals that control our behavior with terrifying precision. Consider the mechanics of shame and pride. When you accomplish something that benefits your tribe, your brain floods your system with serotonin and dopamine. You feel a rush of status and self-worth. This is not just a pleasant sensation. It is a biological reward designed to make you seek that high again, prompting you to perform more prosocial acts. Conversely, if you violate a social norm or anger the group, your brain triggers a massive drop in dopamine and a surge of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. You experience shame. This emotional response is highly survival-oriented. In the ancient world, being exiled from the tribe was a literal death sentence. Shame is the internal warning siren telling you that you are on the verge of being cast out into the wilderness to die. The physical manifestation of this emotion is no accident. When you feel embarrassed, your face flushes as blood vessels dilate and your body posture slumps. This is an involuntary signal to others that you recognize your mistake and submit to the group's authority. It is an automated apology system designed to prevent your peers from killing or exiling you. We did not develop empathy because humans are naturally sweet-natured. We developed empathy because we possess mirror neurons that force us to physically experience a simulation of another person's suffering. If you see a tribe member break their leg, your brain simulates that pain. This mechanism ensures that you help them not out of altruism, but to alleviate your own vicarious discomfort. The economy of human emotion is entirely transactional. We are wired to care about others, because our biology has made their survival a prerequisite for our own peace of mind. This brings us back to the central mystery of why social rejection mimics physical bone fractures. The brain is an incredibly lazy engineer. When humans evolved the need for complex social pain to keep us from leaving the tribe, evolution did not build a brand new neural network from scratch. Instead, it practiced a form of biological recycling. The brain hijacked the pre-existing physical pain system, specifically the anterior cingulate cortex. This region of the brain is responsible for processing the emotional distress of physical injuries. If you step on a rusty nail, the anterior cingulate cortex is what makes you care that your foot is bleeding. It translates the raw sensory input of tissue damage into an urgent, agonizing experience of suffering that demands immediate action. When humans became hypersocial, the brain simply wired our social detection networks directly into this same pain processing center. This explains the biological reality of heartbreak. When you are rejected, dumped, or ostracized, the anterior cingulate cortex fires in the exact same pattern as it does during physical torture. Your brain cannot distinguish between a fractured femur and a fractured relationship because it uses the exact same hardware to process both events. This biological shortcut was highly effective on the savannah. The agony of social exclusion was so intense that hominids would do almost anything to avoid it, keeping them safely nestled within the protective bubble of the tribe. The system worked perfectly for hundreds of thousands of years because the stakes of social interaction were simple and immediate. You knew exactly who your tribe members were, and you only had to manage relationships with about 150 people. But this ancient biological hack left a latent vulnerability inside our skulls, waiting for the arrival of the modern world. The tragedy of modern human existence is that our physical environment has changed at light speed, while our evolutionary biology has crawled at a snail's pace. We are currently using Pleistocene neurological mechanisms to navigate 21st century environments. Our ancestors evolved to fear the disapproval of their small tribe because rejection meant literal death by starvation or predator. Today, when you post a comment on the internet and receive a barrage of negative feedback from anonymous strangers thousands of miles away, your ancient brain does not understand the concept of the internet. It does not realize that these people pose absolutely no threat to your physical survival. Instead, your anterior cingulate cortex detects social disapproval and immediately assumes you are about to be cast out into the frozen wilderness to freeze. Your brain floods your body with cortisol, your heart rate spikes, and you experience the genuine, agonizing stress of an existential threat. We are perpetually terrorized by obsolete genetic programming. We suffer from chronic anxiety, clinical depression, and crippling low self-esteem because our brains are constantly misinterpreting mundane modern situations as life or death survival crises. The very emotional mechanisms that allowed us to conquer the planet have now turned inward, creating a mental health epidemic born of evolutionary mismatch. We built a hyper-connected global civilization of billions, but we are still using the raw, recycled pain networks of cavemen to navigate it. The grand irony of the human evolution is that the social emotions which saved us from physical extinction in the wild are now the very things driving us mad in the comfort of our own homes. We conquered the predators of the ancient world, only to find ourselves permanently struggling against our own primitive minds.